Hello all, it's the Grimm Creeper. I'm hoping that you enjoy this. I just wanted to let everyone know that this is a story I've written, and I'm not much of a writer. Punctuation is not my strong suit, sentence structure and all that. But I do hope you enjoy it. I call it Jessica. The monster dragged its rasp of a tongue across her bare chest, lapping up the fresh blood that now spilled from the wound torn into her neck by the beast. The dim light that flickered and swayed above them ever so slightly only added to the fright of the two shackled and gagged on either side of the now dead young woman. They had been forced to witness their daughter, Jessica, being brutalized, physically and mentally, for days now. Even when they clenched their eyes shut, the cries of pain and anguish echoed in their minds as they hung helpless from the rust-covered shackles. The monster gulped his last swallow of Jessica's blood down, wrapped her legs around his waist, and removed a key from his pocket, unlocking and removing her shackles. The beast walked her to a metal table that sat in the middle of this dungeon, and tossed her lifeless body down like a sack of dirt. The monster, with a smirk of satisfaction, turned to his prisoners on the wall. "You might want to look away, Mom and Dad," unbuckling his belt and removing his clothes. It defiled her. It defiled their daughter after murdering her. When the beast was finished, it gathered its clothes into a plastic bag and stepped inside a shower stall on the opposite end of the dungeonous basement and washed Jessica's blood down the drain. Finished, the beast dried off and put clean clothes on from a chest of drawers just on the other side of the shower stall, then smiled at the two and made its way upstairs that were hidden by a wall. Keys could be heard jingling, and a click, click, thud. A door opening and then closing, and again, click, click, thud, were the last sounds the two would hear until the monster's next arrival. Amanda turned her head as best she could to look at Scott, whose defeated eyes portrayed the helplessness he felt at not being able to protect his once beautiful daughter, who now lay lifeless and covered in her own blood and the monster's sweat. Amanda screamed under the gag, Scott jumping as if awakened from a terrifying nightmare. But this was no dream. He looked at Amanda and wanted to say, "I love you," and "I'm so sorry this is happening." But the only thought in his mind was that she would be the next to be tortured, raped, and beaten, and there was not a fucking thing he could do about it. They had lost all hope for the future after the first day of being forced to witness their daughter being brutalized. A noise like a breeze caught their attention, and they turned to face their daughter standing before them. Both in shock, they looked to the table. She still lay lifeless on the metal table, but somehow standing before them as well. The Jessica that stood before them gave them a sympathetic smile, softness to her eyes, but seemed distracted, looking to the ceiling, close to where the door was at the top of the hidden staircase. She narrowed her eyes and furrowed her brow as if deep in thought while looking at the ceiling. She then vanished, leaving nothing behind but her own corpse sprawled on the metal table. Both Amanda and Scott were thinking the same thing. It must be a hallucination from the stress, or hunger, or both. So they never acknowledged the event, or even shared a dumbfounded glance. They just assumed it hadn't really happened. After a while, they slumped where they hung and drifted into a feverish sleep state. where their nightmares reflected the reality that they faced while awake. An hour later, Amanda was the first to wake. Pain shooting through her body. With every beat of her heart, her head pounded. She battled to quell the pulsating pain. It had been 4 days now since she, Scott, and Jessica had peacefully gone to bed in their home, only to wake and find themselves in this hell the demon had made for them. Amanda opened her eyes, revealing the sight of her daughter's corpse on the metal table, eyes opened and glazed over, staring up at the dungeness ceiling. She wished it was her who was beaten, raped, and tortured repeatedly by the demon, not her beautiful daughter. Jessica had only 2 more short years of college, and she would be off to travel the world. That was her plan, and she had worked so hard to make it happen, saving every penny she made that didn't go towards her education. Now her life was stolen from her, and she would never see the world she dreamed of traveling. Amanda tried again, as she had many times before, to break free of her shackles, but she hadn't enough energy to do much of anything. The noise was enough to wake Scott with a violent shudder. His nightmares haunted him. There was nothing he could have done to prevent this, and he knew it. He relived his first awakening in this dungeon every time he was too exhausted to stay awake. It haunted him relentlessly, but he knew it was nothing compared to what Jessica had suffered through. The demon and his greeting playing over and over as he slept. "Your little girl and I are gonna have some fun, Daddy," it said with glee. "You and Mommy will have to wait your turn," the monster had said. They didn't know who this demon was, but if he was careful enough to kidnap an entire family without being noticed, they would never be found. As they expressed with their eyes the "I love yous" and "I'm so sorry this is happening" looks, Jessica once again appeared before them, covered in blood from head to toe, but the same sympathetic smile on her pale face, and same softness in her eyes. "I love you, Mom and Dad," she said, her voice perky and sweet in their ears, as she had been before the demon stole her from them. Her smile widening as she looked up and to the right, and nodded her head seemingly to the ceiling. Jessica turned, giving them one last glance, and walked toward her own lifeless corpse, fading away into nothing. Scott and Amanda broke down, convulsing with sobs, their tears cleaning clear streaks down their naked, dirt and dust-covered bodies before hitting the floor. Suddenly they heard it, and panic surged through them, as it had the 3 days prior. Click, click, thud. "Just kill us," Scott thought. But this time he heard 3 sets of footsteps pounding down the stairs, and a man's voice belting out, "If anyone is down here, make yourselves known," repeatedly. A beam of light shone from around the wall and pinned Scott and Amanda where they hung, then shifted to illuminate Jessica's body on the metal table. "Oh my God," a voice said. "Go get the bolt cutters out of my cruiser trunk and the blankets." Footsteps could be heard pounding up the stairs. 211 to dispatch. Dispatch. We need a detective on scene. 3 held captive in the basement. 10-4, 211. "You're going to be all right. We're going to get you out of here," a woman's voice said. Scott and Amanda were put on gurneys and carried up the stairs and out of the dungeon, into a well-furnished house, almost a mansion. As Amanda was carried through the living room, she saw the demon. His body was mangled. It looked as if every bone in his body had been broken multiple times. He lay in a ball, with his face looking straight up at the ceiling,